There is a new update to this story, which adds more twist to it. This is the kind of story that makes you to wonder how many more ladies would be killed before our guests begin to learn. How many more ladies will be bedded at night and then murdered at dawn? Before we go into the latest update, which complicates the matter and even raises more questions, let us point out here that it has now been proven beyond doubts that Celine and Afiba Tando went to meet Mr. Andrew for a hookup deal. I personally believe that there was no way Afiba, who was married, would be going to meet a man with her friend for hookup, and throughout the journey, she kept her husband informed, even telling him that she and Celine was going to meet Mr. Andrew. If Afiba was going to meet Mr. Andrew for a hookup date, she wouldn't have told her husband or even went as far as mentioning the man's name and their destination. We may argue that there is a late WhatsApp chat where the ladies were bargaining for price for the hookup deal, 500,000 each. But there is also a possibility that Mr. Andrew had access to the lady's phone and might have been the one texting and replying himself, because there was no date on the leaked WhatsApp chat to show when the messages were exchanged. Yes, actually, Mr. Andrew had access to their phones because 1 million naira was withdrawn from Celine's account few days after their disappearance. This could not have been Celine, otherwise she would have called for help or disclosed her location to someone if she had access to her phone. Let us also remember that Rachel, who had escaped from Mr. Andrew before, had told Mr. Ben that the messages Mr. Andrew sent to him about her was doctored. So this shows that Mr. Andrew could doctor messages or chats to give the impression that he wanted. However, there is also a video extracted from Celine's phone, the iPad she had left at home when they went to meet Mr. Andrew, which showed when Mr. Andrew was inviting the ladies for some weekend of fun. But again, if we look at the testimony of Rachel, we could see that Mr. Andrew took his time to build friendship and make the ladies to feel like they are going to meet a gentleman. Right from UK, he communicated with Rachel until he came to Nigeria, and he didn't even outrightly invite the girl for hookup. He invited her to his mother's birthday party instead, and still had to lie again to take her to his house where he unleashed the monster in him. In the case of Celine, Mr. Andrew and Celine had been friends for 5 years after meeting through Facebook. Mr. Andrew had the money to afford any hookup girl that he wanted, so it could not have been for hookup that he chatted with Celine for 5 years. According to Afiba's husband, Afiba was the second lady involved in the case. She was a Ghanaian lady married to a white man. According to her husband, Mr. Andrew had invited Celine and Afiba to a wedding through another friend named Emmanuel. This also could be an accomplice. This makes sense because no married woman would be going for a hookup deal and let her husband to know that she was going for such. Even if only Celine was involved in such a deal, Afiba could not have let her husband to know that she was also involved in such movement. If hookup was involved based on what had happened and the conversation he had with Afiba, by now he should have his doubts and become angry and disappointed, but he keeps defending his wife. Let us look at how the whole story started. On the 27th of April 2024, Celine and Afiba had gone to meet a man named Mr. Andrew Amechi Ochukwu, whom Celine had met through Facebook, and they had been friends for the past 5 years. Mr. Andrew was a 52-year-old wealthy British Nigeria businessman who lived in Aba, Abia State, Nigeria until his death. He was the owner of Black Sheep Group and a couple of other businesses littered in the United Kingdom. He was a man wanted in the UK since March 2023 for a crime he committed in June 2019, which involved sexual assault. It was on account of being declared wanted in the United Kingdom that Mr. Andrew relocated to Nigeria. However, without being remorseful, he continued in his evil ways even in Nigeria. Mr. Andrew was rich and polished and flaunted his luxurious lifestyle on social media. From a distance, he appeared like Mr. Right, a perfect gentleman. It was easy for him to lure these ladies to his side and to make sure that no suspicion arises as to his intention. He was extremely nice and patient, making sure to send enough money to the would-be victim for transportation. Shortly after getting to Mr. Andrew's house, on the 27th of April, Tessie, Celine's sister, received a message from Celine that the man they had gone to meet had kidnapped them. On the same day, Afiba's husband, who had kept in touch with her all through the journey from Lagos to Owerri, then to Port Harcourt, before proceeding to Aba to go meet the man, became worried because he could no longer contact her. The next day, he received a message from Celine's friend that Celine and Afiba had been kidnapped by the man they visited in Aba. Tessie didn't waste time. She raced down to Aba the same day They were kidnapped and reported the case to the police and even went as far as naming the suspect and presenting other evidence like Celine's WhatsApp message to her friend telling her that they had been kidnapped and asking for help. I believe that it was when these ladies were sending out messages and seeking for help that Mr. Andrew realized and seized their phone. Rachel had also stated that Mr. Andrew also collected her phone when he caught her sending out messages and calling for help. Despite overwhelming evidence and reasons to swing into action immediately, the policemen were reluctant, but Stacy pressured on until the policemen agreed to go for a search in the hotel where these ladies had lodged before moving to Mr. Andrew's house. And also in the same hotel, they were able to access the CCTV cameras and were able to extract some information. Afterwards, they went in search around Mr. Andrew's house, but these policemen were not very serious because when Stacy showed them a car that looked like the one that had come to pick the ladies from the hotel to Mr. Andrews' house, these policemen refused to take her seriously. In fact, they dismissed her, promising that they will come back the next day to continue the search by 2 a.m. in the morning. Celine had taken a picture of the car that came to pick them from the hotel and sent it to her sister. It was as though she had feelings that something bad might happen. When the policeman returned the next day, they didn't do much, claiming that they could not gain access into the compound where the suspicious car was parked. At this point, it is safe to say that the police did not know Mr. Andrew yet. It is also possible that they know the owner of the house as an influential person or one of theirs, hence they refused to break into the house to search it. Or did they refuse to go into the house to search it because it must have looked expensive and rich? If this case was reported against an ordinary citizen with such overwhelming evidence, the police wouldn't hesitate or hurt even a minute before breaking into the house. But why was this one very different? Stacy was not satisfied with the way the policemen were handling the case, so she moved down to Umuahia to file another report at Police Zone 9. These ones came and arrested the suspect in the same house where the suspicious car was parked, the same house that Stacy had shown the previous policemen from Aba, but they refused to act. If we compare this story to the killing of Oluwabamise by BRT driver and how eventually the driver was able to be caught because Oluwabamise had taken the vehicle number and sent it to her friend. In this very case again, the suspect was able to be arrested because Celine had taken a picture of the car that came to pick them up and sent to her sister. It was her sister showing the police the vehicle that helped in accelerating the arrest of the suspect. Besides making an arrest, an unidentified body was also found near Mr. Andrew's house. The body was wrapped with a cotton similar to the one in Mr. Andrew's house. The unidentified body had its vital organs, arms, head, and other parts missing. One might think that the policemen from Zone 9 were making frantic efforts to unraveling the crime, but Mr. Andrew was in their custody for 2 weeks, and yet they did not get him to make any useful statement that would help them in investigation, not even to disclose the whereabouts of the ladies after 2 weeks in their custody. Perhaps he was there frolicking, dining and playing with them. No other arrests were made, neither was there anything achieved through his detention. As a matter of fact, while in their detention, Mr. Andrew was almost a free man with access to his phone and other privileges, and this was a prime suspect in a murder kidnapping case. In other words, both the policemen in Aba and those from Umuahia had failed. Even the discovery of a decomposing body near Mr. Andrew's house was not enough to spur them to action. Finding a decomposing body with missing body parts might direct attention to the allegation that he was into organ harvesting business. According to Rachel, Mr. Andrew had threatened to kill her and harvest her organs, and he actually brought out a sharp knife and tried to carry out his threats before she was able to escape. For lack of seriousness from the policemen at Aba, the case was moved down to Umuahia by Stacy. Again, for lack of seriousness from the policemen at Zone 9 Umuahia, the case was transferred to Abuja, where we hoped that frantic efforts would have been made, but the worst happened. The journey from Aba to Abuja started on the 27th of May and ended on the 31st of May with the death of Mr. Andrew under suspicious circumstances. While being transferred to Abuja, Mr. Andrew was killed on the way around Benue State. All the policemen involved in this case have questions to answer. With Mr. Andrew's gun and other exhibits loaded in his car, he was given the luxury of driving himself from Abia State to Abuja, while the policemen rode in another vehicle. How could this be possible? How could a journey of 12 hours or less stretch to 4 days and still ended in the most unclear circumstances with the murder of the prime suspect? This case was reported to the police on the 27th of April, and Mr. Andrew was arrested on the 8th of May. So for 3 weeks he was with the police, yet he didn't say or reveal anything that would help the police in their investigation. Not even the girl's remains have been found. How could the police be so careless with such a serious case, even with all the evidence and multiple ladies coming up to speak against Mr. Andrew? To explain the irregularities involved in this case, people have speculated that Mr. Andrew, being a rich man, had been bribing the police and was highly placed in Abia State, hence the police could do so little. People also believe that he was killed on his way to Abuja so that he would not expose the policemen whom he had bribed. Lots of other people believe that his life was cut short through an order from above to avoid spilling too much information which would implicate other members of the syndicate, probably people that are highly placed in Abuja. One of Mr. Andrew's friends, called Ben Samuel, to whom Andrew had sent video of Celine and Afiba lying naked and motionless, also confirmed that Mr. Andrew told him that he gave the policemen 3 million naira. Now, I guess this explained why he enjoyed so much luxury in the hands of the policemen. However, said that Mr. Andrew was killed by a local vigilante group in Benue State while trying to escape. They also explained that he was allowed to drive his car from Abia State to Abuja because his car had a facial recognition feature. But Atiba's husband countered this claim. According to him, the car that Mr. Andrew drove and was killed in did not have anything like facial recognition feature. Today, there is a new update to this story. The two men whom the police officers accused of being the ones that killed Mr. Andrew were interviewed today, and in a broad daylight, they denied ever having anything to do with Mr. Andrew's death or being involved in his murder. However, we are still waiting for more updates because this is getting messier. Who really killed Mr. Andrew and why? Ben Samuel, who seemed to be Mr. Andrew's confidant, has denied any wrongdoings and involvement in his crime. We did not know why Mr. Andrew trusted him so much and gave him so much of his secrets, or rather his exploits. He admitted of knowing Mr. Andrew's past and said he could not tell the police what he knew when he got wind of the missing ladies because Nigerian police are unreliable. But we wonder why he did not inform the UK police that the monster they declared wanted had relocated to Nigeria to continue his atrocities. At least we know that the UK police are reliable. Mr. Ben seemed to know all of Andrew's exploits, even when he kidnapped Richelle, yet he bottled up everything and even accused Richelle, or rather believed that Richelle was trying to steal from Mr. Andrew. Didn't he know the kind of friend he had? Richelle also alleged that while she was kept hostage in Mr. Andrew's house, there was one person Mr. Andrew was always communicating with and telling everything. Could it be Mr. Ben? The IGP has ordered high-powered investigation into this case.